Welcome to the Christian Entrepreneurs Podcast. This is episode 28, and I'm your host, Anne-Marie Cross, brand and communication strategist, and also known as the podcasting queen. Now, my guest today says, be you. The purpose of our lives is to use our gifts and our talents that God has blessed us with so that we can love one another. So don't be anyone else but you. Run your own race. And I think that that's so very important. So joining me on today's show is Calantha Chan. And 2 years ago, Calantha transitioned out of corporate to launch her own coaching practice. Now, the reason for this was that she thought that the only way to be successful at life was to get a corporate job, to work up the ladder, buy a house, get married, and she would be happy. She did all that except the getting married part, that's yet to come, but she wasn't happy. So she went out seeking to find out what she was really passionate about. And ultimately, it was super simple: to find her strength and then inspire others to find theirs and to pursue it. So she went on to study to become a life coach and to start her own business. Now, 18 months ago, she worked as a mentor and salesperson at one of Australia's large coaching schools, coaching and enrolling new students. And there she noticed a really big problem, that only 1 in 30 students were working with paying clients. So 12 months ago, she decided that she was going to go on a mission to interview over 100 coaches and business people to understand what was holding them back from being successful in their business. And it really came down to these three things: the lack of structure, the lack of support, the lack of marketing and sales knowledge. So since then, she's created a family and program called the $10,000 Elite Squad, designed to specifically help beginner coaches to nail their niche, to stand out and sell authentically so that they can become a bold $10,000 coach and thought leader in their niche, helping people they want to help. So on today's show, Calantha is going to bring great insights around be you. God has given you a unique set of gifts, talents and skill sets to use for his glory. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus and ask and you shall receive. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. I've been so pumped. It's funny, as I was writing that description out yesterday, I was like, yeah, but then it's a completely different thing, I think, to hear it back to you.
Yes.
We connected, I think, a few months ago at a networking event by Sam Jansen. And as you were sharing with me the podcast that you're creating and the entrepreneurs that you're building up, I was just so pumped when you invited me on board.
Look, it's my absolute pleasure. And as I was reading through your story, I was reminded that many of the coaches, when I was a coach just starting out, and that's going back quite a few decades now, where we went through the training school, which was different, it was more the uni in the career field and the career coaching space. We were given our technical skills and then we were like, congratulations, off you go, create a business. And it was like, okay, what do I do? It's a whole set of skills that they really don't touch on. And there's a huge need. And this is something I'd love to hear feedback from that you received. A lot of my colleagues, we went through a stage where maybe there's something wrong with us. Maybe we're not good enough. And that then feeds into the self-esteem. And then before you know it, you really can be fearful to get out there because you're scared of rejection and all that kind of thing. Is that kind of the feedback you got as well from the interviews that you did?
That is so spot on and accurate. I mean, that's a clear reflection of my journey and also the journey that a lot of my clients are going through. What I have found really interesting about coaches is coaches and entrepreneurs, I think, go through slightly different journeys. And what I mean by that is, what I've noticed with entrepreneurs is that they identify a problem in the market. Mm-hmm. And then because they want to go and solve that problem, they're always fixated on how can I help solve that? How can I help it? Or how can I help other people? Whereas with coaches, we naturally come into coaching because we love personal development. We, on some level, want to learn more about ourselves. So the focus is not so much on other people or external, but it's on self, which I think is probably why for a lot of coaches, the biggest challenge initially is overcoming that self-doubt, feeling like a fraud, I feel like an imposter, that going through that syndrome and really pushing through that. And I don't think many do, because if you look at the success rate of coaches, like, even if I just reflect on the last 12 months, the people who I started coaching with initially, I saw them 12 months ago active online and offline. I reckon 9 in 10 of them, I don't see them. online
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
consistency is just easier said than done.
Yes. You know, what I love about the fact that you've created this community is so often when we are on our own, because we are solopreneurs, we don't want to disclose that, hey, I'm struggling to get clients, or what we end up doing. What I used to do, you know, decades ago was we would lower a price in the hope that someone would say yes. But we don't want to have those conversations, because then we're kind of, you know, sharing and being transparent that, hey, you know, I really am struggling to build that business. But when we start to have conversations like this with other people, we realize, you know what, there is nothing wrong with me. I'm not alone in this. And the reason is because I haven't been taught the steps, the processes, the structure that needs to be in place to grow a successful business. And business is tough. Even if you've got all of the right systems and processes and structure, there still can be days where you wake up and you go, oh, but it's because we love what we do that we continue on. But talk a little bit about that, because, you know, not only do they not know about the structure, it's not taught, which I think is a real discredit to the coaching and training schools out there. Yes?
Yeah. I think what coaches, you raised so many great points. I think first and foremost, what coaches are really great at is a lot of them are visionaries. They've got this massive vision to want to make a difference, to help change people's lives, which is awesome. And then what they lack is, like what you said, the structure. Now, what I've experienced is that when there's no structure, you experience lots and lots of overwhelm. It's awesome. Like, things coming out from every angle. You've got seminars, you've got workshops, you've got webinars, you've got infinite marketing strategies. And it's interesting because I just ran a 2-day workshop last week with my crew. And one of the things I taught them was one of the biggest mistakes coaches make is thinking that you don't have enough marketing strategies, you're not doing enough yet. And I'm like, honestly, if someone 18 months ago had told me, Cal, just pick one strategy, whether it's webinar, workshop, and just stick with that and be consistent with that for 90 days, you will succeed. But I didn't know that at the time because, like you said, people are just selling their strategy and not knowing that simple is actually best.
Yes.
Tony Robbins says it, like, complexity is the enemy of execution. And one of the core values of our business is simplicity, because I've been modeling over the past 12 months or even 24 successful coaches. When I say successful, I mean people who are generating profitable income generating businesses. So many of them grind and hustle and are working really hard. And I started to just question, does it have to be hard? Like, what if business was really simple? Because at the end of the day, it should just be a machine. So you do the certain inputs and you automate it and certain outputs come out. So the real shift for not only for myself and for my clients now, because your clients are a reflection of the coach, is let's keep it simple. I want my ideal life is where I work 9 to 3, Monday to Friday. Saturday, Sundays, I take off. And I'm just really productive during those hours because I want to go to church. I want to go volunteer at church on a weekday. I want to go dancing, do all the things that I genuinely believe that God wants for us. Like, he wants us to be joyful, peaceful, loving, kind to ourselves. He doesn't want us hustling and grinding and feeling pressured all the time. Like, has that been, I'm sure at some stage that was the shift for you as well, from complexity and overwhelm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it was. And look, this really segues beautifully into one of the first points that you want to share around being you. God has given us a unique set of gifts. And something that I'm reminded of, because, you know, in my career coaching days, I would have to undergo training to be certified in various tools and techniques to be able to help my clients. And there's a lot of self-discovery. And I think self-discovery, when you know your gifts, your talents, your strengths, so that you can really leverage them. But one that I realized at the beginning of this year, and this is, you know, goes a testament to you never stop learning, is I realized I did, and I've never done one before, and you might have heard of it, the Colby. And that is really using a unique set of skills and where you really fire up to action. And I realize I'm a very high quick start. And that's someone who can just dive into action, visionary. We love chaos. We love chaos and stress. We love lots of moving parts because that's when we flick into action. And procrastination, it says for us, and interruptions is one of the best things that can happen. Now, for me, where that is everybody's teaching. A lot of my mentors were, you have to have this process and all this. And I was sitting there going, oh, now I know why, because that is not my natural style. That's not when I feel on fire and then I can just rock and roll. So, so let's talk about being us. Because self-awareness and recognizing our skills, our talents and our gifts is often something that we have to do with intention. I think it's not something that comes to us naturally. Speak a bit more about this.
Totally. I think over my time, take me back to my Coles days, which was probably about 3 years ago when I was still working in corporate. I think a belief I had back then was that whatever I was good at, which is I love studying people, I loved understanding why people are the way that they are. I read all these personal development books. I just took for granted that they were everyone's strengths and that they were everyone's interests.
Yes.
And what I've come to realize since then is because I only became a Christian maybe about a year and a couple of months ago. So I was trying to reconcile Christian beliefs and principles to personal development as opposed to the other way around, and trying to find my sense of truth out of that.
Yeah.
So I remember coming across, the Bible verse around gifts and talents. And I started to look into that and question, why am I passionate about the things that I'm passionate about? And the more that I started doing personal behavioral tests, like there's Myers-Briggs, there's profiling, a whole bunch of different ones, and starting to see that other people had completely different results.
Yes.
I was like, wow, we are all really different. And the more that I started to pursue them, so for me, it was speaking, teaching, training people and selling. I was a sales rep when I worked for my parents' doctors, and I thought, oh, well, maybe this isn't for me. But I was like, you know what? I'm actually really good at this. And the more that I do this, the more attractive I become to other people, and they want to hang around me more, because I could do this a day in, day out, and it's almost like automatic.
Yes.
Just like for my dad, he can sit there fixing machines and like a bike for hours. And I'm just like, can we go do something else now? But that's his jam, because that's how his brain works. But now I'm so passionate. When I start working with a client, first thing I get them to do is I'm like, can you go type in 16 personalities into Google and do your Myers-Briggs test and start to gain some understanding and research around what are your strengths, because we want to position you in your business where you leverage those skill sets and you source the other ones. So then you can spend more time adding more value to your clients.
Yes, I love that. And it's such a great reminder, and it speaks perfectly into what I know many entrepreneurs, many coaches, consultants struggle with, and that is comparison. When we admire maybe our coach and our mentor who has certain gifts and talents that may not necessarily align where we're at. And so what we try and do is emulate them, but we're leaving on the table the things that make us very unique. And I think when we show up with intention and purpose, that allows us to shine. And one thing that you said, which I think is so brilliant, is that it doesn't take a lot of effort, because it's something that's quite natural. I think sometimes, speak a bit towards this too, sometimes we take those strengths and those innate qualities for granted because of the fact that they do come quite easy to us, and we think, well, that's just anyone can do that. And you mentioned that as well. But sometimes it's in those key elements that when we use that with intention and purpose, it can be what really separates us and creates a distinguishable experience. And the experience that our clients love us and want to do business with us. Yes?
Yeah, totally. I think where it all starts with is awareness, because if you take it for granted, it assumes that you're unaware that it's a strength and a unique strength to you and myself. So for me, it was, I remember very vividly, I was at Coles, maybe it was day 8 of my graduate role in finance. So far removed from my skill set. And I remember going home every day, reflecting in my journal, being like, what do I love? What don't I love? Why was this so challenging? What do I want to get out of tomorrow? All of this stuff. And I remember one night sitting there and I just drew up a table in my diary, and it was, what are all the things I love doing in my life and at work? And what's the value underlying that I love? Because I even wrote down things like, I love baking, but it wasn't food that I loved. It was the act of baking, putting effort and giving it to someone that I loved. And it was the connection. So I think first and foremost, it starts with that awareness. And then I think what holds a lot of people back is you got to be willing to challenge pre-existing expectations and beliefs that you've been brought up with. Because and I don't think my story is very unique. I think a lot of people go through this. And like, I've got Asian parents who love me and wanted the best for me. So based on their lifetime, they thought that the only way to be successful was, you know, get a secure corporate job, study law, get into commerce or finance or accounting or something like that, save for a house, get married. And I just had to fight that. And when you're not around like-minded, encouraging, loving people, which is, I guess, I think why I love church so much, because you go in there and people are like, you want to do that? Awesome. Yeah, you should do it. I didn't get that a lot in my first year of coaching. My mum still doesn't believe in life coaching.
It's like, well, so what is it that you do? And you tell them and their eyes glaze over and you go, that's for another conversation.
Bless her. I love her so much because I can imagine being like in her 50s, living life the way that she has, having a daughter just being like, you know what? I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to do something completely different. That's scary.
Yes. Oh, I could imagine. And especially when she's asked, so what does your daughter do? I don't really know. This is what she'll say eventually. She probably already maybe does. Just go and Google her. You know, you'll find out online.
Sometimes she's got like a look of confusion on her face where she's like, she coaches people on their lives, but I don't need it. You know, like, Mum, I would never coach families. So that's not it. I think it takes a lot of courage to actually be willing to confront the beliefs and to not blame, because I think that's the transition that I went through. I was angry and I blamed my parents a long time for, why did you not give me choice? Why did you not love me more? Why did you not encourage me to pursue this more? And what I've learned is that with awareness, you've got choice. You can choose to blame and you'll continue like living and existing in blame. Or you can be like, you know what? I'm grateful for that. I learned stuff from that. And you know what? I choose to now embrace my strengths. And I know that whatever response you give me, you're coming from a place of love, which is easier said than done. It's easy to be like, yes, let's all come from love and be kind. And it's another thing to actually practice that.
Yes.
And I'm still going through this, and God's still teaching me so much about humility and patience and gentleness. But I think because of those pre-existing expectations and conditioning as a child, that's why I don't think a lot of people pursue their strengths or even have the courage to be vulnerable and be like, well, maybe I'm not that great at finance.
Yeah. I think something that you mentioned about surrounding yourself with like-minded people is just so very important, because as we said, business can really be tough and there are times we just need to have a shoulder to lean on. But if you've got no one to speak to in your circle who don't understand you, who don't get you, then they're probably not the best people to talk to, are they? Because they really can't give you the right support. And that can sometimes minimize what you're doing. And again, it impacts your self-esteem. Let's move forward to keeping your eyes fixed on Jesus, because I think he's the best role model for patience, for humility. And, you know, in fact, one of the guests said, be careful what you pray for, you know, please, Lord, give me patience. He'll give you so much trial and it's like, okay, I got some, you know.
I think I remember you sharing that specifically with me, because that stuck with me over the past couple of months. And I kept telling people, careful what you wish for, because ask and you shall receive, knock on the door will be open.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. You sort of pray like this, you go, you know, please. And it's like, no, what's going to happen, you know, because it builds. And that's the thing. People don't realize it's through certain challenges and situations. That's where you build strength, don't you? It's like a muscle in the gym. I would love to walk in and then come out looking like my after photo, but there's work in between those times. So share more about that. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. What does that mean for you?
Yeah. So first thing that comes to mind is Galatians. I forget the verse, but it talks about the fruits of the Spirit. So love, peace, patience, love and forbearance, gentleness and faith. Because being a relatively new Christian, I want to stop using that as an excuse. I can get away with it for only so long.
Don't worry, I've been a Christian all my life, and I think we still go back to that, or, you know, but
that was really my reference point, because I didn't, for me, for a really long time, I never went to RE when I was in primary school. I don't know why, I just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I had family members who, I guess, for a period tried to like convert us into Christianity. And so for a long time, I was the most atheist like person ever. And for me, Jesus was like pressure, coercion, force. But then it was when I started going to Connect Group with some friends of mine about 3 years ago now, and the moment I walked into their home, every single time, it was the presence of the Holy Spirit. It was like this unconditional love, gentleness, like no judgment, like, Cal, we're here for you. And they didn't pressure me to accept God ever. They just listened, and they kept encouraging me to come back. And I was like, this is so different. I've never experienced this before. And then when I came across that verse in Galatians, I was like, this is so weird. Like, this is like the godly version of success. It's love, peace. I was like, where's ambition? Where's achievement? Like, where is like how much you earn? Like,
climbing the corporate ladder and all of that.
I'm like, where is that? And it wasn't there. And that really just, it was a real conflict, because the other verse that I've just leaned on so much for understanding is Matthew 6. You know, don't store your treasures here on earth, store it up in heaven where moths, rust, and thieves can't break in and steal. And like, that was the big challenge, because we live in this earthly world where often we see in social media, you know, become a 6-figure coach, a 7-figure coach, even naming my squad, the 10K elite squad. I was like, oh, am I focusing on money and possessions here? And just, I remember I fought with God for like 6 months, and I was like, and I knew that I wasn't attracting the right clients because I was fixated on money and possessions and this real scarcity mentality of, I need clients. I have to get clients now. That kicked in so strongly. And it wasn't until he really taught me patience and like, Cal, trust me. Like, why you have so little faith? Like, that just played on and on in my mind. I'm like, okay, Lord. And I know now that one of my gifts is faith. So many times in my business, I remember in the first 2 months, one week I was just like, God, like, seriously, I just need you to come through on this. Like, I really need a client. Like, just financially, I need. And I just chose to just move forward every single day and just serve. And at the end of the week, he blessed me with 3 beautiful clients. And I was just like, God, you are so good, like, so good. And I know that I wouldn't have been able to do it myself because I had some awesome spiritual mentors who were also in business that I just sought out, because I was like, here I am in this internal conflict of business, but also, how do I reconcile this with my faith? Like, how do these two go hand in hand together where I can love others and make money and be okay with money? That was really challenging for me. I wonder, that's something that you experienced
there. Yeah, absolutely. And in actual fact, we had I had a great conversation with Carolyn Mose, and she is a spending coach or spending planner. And we spoke about, you know, how there are certain Bible verses that really, you know, say about the love of money. And I think for me growing up, I completely skewed that to think that money was evil, and money is not evil at all. It's the love. If you put that first and foremost and can, you know, consistently focused on that. And it's not till you change your focus, because I know many Christian business owners who are very abundant and wealthy and, you know, got lots of prosperity, but they don't focus on that. They focus first on the kingdom, and then, you know, what's your will, and then through that they just take the actions and the expertise that they have, and you know, and obviously they tithe and give back to kingdom projects and things like that. But I think that's the difference. And I think sometimes in churches, because they don't really come from a business background, it can be sometimes hard to reconcile with that. But let's face it, I mean, if you combine a lot of business owners who are Christian business owners who really, as you say, they work through it with love and understanding and compassion, which is, you know, everything that Jesus did, and give back to projects for undeveloped countries and other lots of great projects, we can do some serious good can't we?
What
To change the lives of people.
One of the biggest shifts, I think, for me was realizing rather than focusing on the money, was just be Christ-like. And so to answer your question, how do I keep my eyes set on Jesus, or what does that mean for me? It's to be kind, to be love, to be encouraging. And like so often with my clients, they're like, I need clients. I want to become a 10K coach. I'm like, I know that that's why they joined up. But when they join up, I'm like, guys, it's so much more than this. Like, why did you become a coach in the first place? And at the end of the day, we're all going to die one day. I know for us, you know, there's eternity, which is like super exciting. But for many of them, it's like, well, who do you actually want to be remembered for? Okay, you want to be courageous, you want to be inspiring, you want to have left a legacy. Well, who do you need to be right now to build that? And it's the same concept of kingdom building, and who do we need to be to do that? I think that's an incredibly powerful question to ask myself each time. I feel like I'm veering off course.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a great reminder, I think, that no matter what stage that we are at in our business, it takes momentum. And as we are building, you know, through that period of patience, we're reminded of the promise through the talents and the strengths that we're continuing to develop. And you can imagine if you just started your business off and all of a sudden you were bombarded with clients, there's only so much you're going to be able to deliver because you haven't built the right systems yet that grow naturally with your business. So often it's because what you're given, you become a really good steward at that, you manage that well, you're generating great results, and then you continue to grow that way. And sometimes we forget about that momentum because we want to fast track it to the other end, don't we?
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think in this generation we live in, instant gratification and impatience is more prevalent than it's ever been before. Like, and the more people I speak to, the more I realize that almost everyone experiences anxiety, depression on some level. And no wonder comparison is so easy to do. Like, I intentionally now, like, don't watch TV, try and stay off social media, because I'm like, it's impure. It's like, I don't want to be brainwashing myself or reading stuff that is not good, is not kind or loving necessarily. And so it's just so important to be surrounding yourself, like you said before, with the right people, and be willing, be faithful to do the work, to start small and build up. There's a verse that says, you know, when you've proven yourself, then God will give you more responsibility. It's the same with business. Like, if you've earned it and you've been a good steward, you've delivered an awesome outcome for your client, great. Then the universe will give you more. But you've got to earn that. You're not entitled to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So important. And I think too, as Christians, you know, something that you said, which I think is really important, is that in our attitudes and our approach. Sometimes we don't even need to mention that we are Christians. And often I won't, but people will often say, you know, I don't know what it is about you, your approach or whatever. And it could be what you said, kindness, or in the process of catastrophe, I've just remained calm. Now I realize that that's actually that's when I click into action. But that's because I have the world could end to right here, right now, you know, and people will say, what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, I can die. Well, for me, and I know this probably sounds very like, but for me, there is such a great promise there. It's just kind of like life goes on, and it's like, hi, I'm here. What's everyone up to? You know, that there's just nothing. You know, and I think that's where you really lean, not on your own strength, not on your own understanding, but on Christ, you know, and the promises that we're given are just amazing. Yeah.
Because I think often what we think we want, God's just got a way bigger plan for us. And often it plays out differently to what we expected. And I know the trigger for me is the moment I'm feeling impatient, then I've probably started to lean on my own understanding and create my own visions and my own goals, and not actually live out the will that He's got for me.
Yeah, it's a great reminder, isn't it? Just be monitoring, because we know that sometimes, and you know, we've got an enemy who does not want us to fulfill our destiny, does not want us to impart truth and hope and love and kindness and compassion to others. He wants disharmony and hatred and all of that. So that's where we just need to step back and go, okay, this is BS, this is not me, and you know, do I need to lean on him?
I'm curious for you, because something that I've been challenged with recently is in the coaching world, we talk so much about vision, creating a vision for our lives. And I want that, whereas God, I think, often just wants us to be present in the moment and be like, well, how do we want to serve him today? Like right now. So how far ahead do you think about?
Well, you know, that whole vision really for me changed, because I had to do a real big turnaround. Because for me, I'm driven. I had goals. You know, there were things that I wanted. So my success and significance actually was around the successes, the awards I was winning, all that kind of stuff. But when I received them, there was still this emptiness, and there was still this feeling of, I never quite made it. And so I really had to switch for me. And that was putting him first, focusing on the gifts and talents. And then from there, I realized that for me, where my real mission, if you will, is to inspire hope and possibility. I was doing that with clients in the career industry. It's what I do now. And it's also, there's a combination I say with people, and this ties into your vision then and your mission. It's what makes you passionate, what you're really passionate about, but in the same token, it's what really peeves you off. So somewhere in the middle there is where really your mission and vision is. And that is, if I see someone who's either putting themselves down or doesn't see the greatness that is in them, every one of us is born with greatness, different greatness, you know, what we were talking about earlier. I will stand up and I will speak it, you know, I'll try and reframe it or something. Similarly, if I see someone putting someone else down, I will not be able to keep my mouth shut. And that's why I don't watch the news, because I end up, you know, because that's what I stand for. I cannot stand it when people try and, you know, minimize and talk down to other people. And so my mission is to change the world one message at a time, and to help other people do that. You know, because that taps into my whole, the brand, the communications, because there's a lot of different elements that you think of. And when you start to join the dots and you look behind, and I think Steve Jobs said this so well, is often when you look backwards, you can connect the dots. You can't see them moving forward, but you can backwards. And then you go through your life. What were some of the significant things that happened? What do I do naturally if I'm with a friend or with a client, or overhear someone speaking on the phone? You know, your blood starts to boil either with excitement, or you just can't stop yourself. That can often be indications that that's kind of that mission. And then from there, you create that vision. Does that help?
Yeah, it totally does. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's almost like, what I'm hearing from that is, it doesn't matter how it actually plays out in real life, as long as you're actually embracing your passions.
Yes.
You're being kind and you're being loving, and I guess maybe being open to receiving the opportunities or the doors that God may open. You're running a podcast now, could be very different next week or the week after.
And you know, I think sometimes too, if you notice where, you know, obviously your strengths lie, but where is there a gap in the market? Where is there something that you just love to be able to speak into, and be able to really bring value to? And then I also encourage people to take it a step further. What is it that, you know, you can almost twist it to the point where you can disrupt it? What are people saying and doing? What are the traditional things that, you know what, needs to be shaken up? Because doing the same old is just going to get the same old results, and we're tired of that. So I think for mission and vision, you know, focused and faith-driven people, because we know the truth and, you know, what the truth is. And I think sometimes just being that and blessing, you know, bringing our gifts and talents around that certain area with our expertise, then that can really be the difference that, you know, that is the difference for people. Because I think sometimes we try and come up with things that are grandiose and this sounds wonderful. And, you know, if you share your vision statement with someone and they go glazed eyes, I have no idea what you just said. Sometimes just being really simple. It's just changing the world one message at a time.
Yeah.
You know, just that kind of thing. It should roll off the tongue, but it should connect with people, your ideal clients. So,
absolutely. And you do that so well.
Oh, well, thank you. I've had a few decades of experience. But another thing that I want to share with people is, you know how sometimes I've got to get my vision, got to get my mission, and it has to be perfect. No, it evolves. It evolves. It continues to evolve. But there are signs, and there are indications that you are in the right direction, and this is where you're wanting to head. And as you said, it can evolve. For me, if I look back 10 years ago, I started my very first podcast, and that was because 2008 was when the global financial crisis hit, and I was in the career industry then. And one of my colleagues and I were talking about how annoyed we were at traditional media that they were talking about doom and gloom and how people were losing their jobs, which was true. But we realised with that doom and gloom and that hopelessness, that people who I was coaching in the job, you know, in searching and interviewing, they were showing up very despondent, and that was impacting their confidence. So we needed to inspire hope and possibility. They needed to change their approach. And so now 10 years on, that little podcast that we did 10 years ago has now become my full-time, what I love to do. You know, I would never have thought. And now, of course, I'm doing a daily podcast, this one. 5 years ago or even 2 years ago, there is no way I would have been able to do this on a daily basis without the systems, the tools, and my team. So God has a plan. We don't always know what it is, and if he showed us what that plan was, before we're ready to go, we'd do a Moses. Who, me? Not me. No way. Send someone else. You know? So he just reveals a little bit at a time as you continue to grow. Absolutely. So and that's of course what you're doing as well. And I think, you know, what an absolute blessing, and especially to speak with you that you're new in your business. I mean, you know, 18 months you've been in business, but what an incredible insights that you've been able to have to see the gap in the marketplace, and then be able to, you know, support clients in that and bring such a fresh approach to that, you know, I think is incredible.
I would add to that, and it's the power of testimonies, because I remember when I first became a Christian and everyone was always like, so, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, like, tell me about your testimony. And I was like, why the hell do you want to listen to my testimony? And then I remember, I think I was reading either a devotion or Rick Warren, who said that the challenges that it was Rick Warren. He was like, the challenges that we go through are not for us. It's not for us. The purpose we go through them for is so that we can share with other people what the challenge was like, and we give them hope.
Yes.
And I genuinely believe that, like, God, he may not necessarily create challenges, but I think he utilizes them in our lives and allows us to experience them, so that coming out of that, we use it to help other people. And like, that's exactly where like your business and my business has come out of. Like, I was at a coaching school for 6 months and noticed how many coaches were not successful, who were still struggling, and who didn't actually go pursue their strengths because they didn't have the business acumen to do that. So then I was like, okay, well, we need to actually go and solve this now. Had I not gone through that experience for myself, like at the time it kind of really sucked and I was really angry. But now I'm like, I'm so grateful because God's now put me in this position where I can actually build community in Melbourne. Like, so many people have said to me, Cal, like, don't just base yourself in Melbourne. Like, you're restricting yourself. Like, this can't happen. And I was like, well, no, like I've experienced it. I've witnessed this. I know it's a challenge and I know there's value there. So it's just really interesting how God positions each of us at the right time. His timing is always perfect.
Yes.
And there's always a learning there. It's just whether or not I think we choose to reflect and look back on that and utilize it, or whether we choose to sit in apathy and grief.
Yeah. And I think what you said there is just so true, in that the challenges and the mountains that we climb, and I think there's a saying around that I read one and I loved it. The mountains that we are climbing today are the mountains that we're going to support people overcoming. And that is if we are able to shift through that, because sometimes, you know, we can get stuck around anger and forgiveness. And one of the things I think that you said, sometimes we need to release that. Not that what we, have experienced is absolutely unforgivable, but we need to release and move on, and we've got a fantastic role model who does that every single day for us when we continue to fall short to the expectations. So but that's but I love the way that you've said, it is about momentum, it's about having the right structure in place, it's around having the right support. So if people are listening today, Cal, and they want to know more about the services and the programs that you offer, how would they do that?
Absolutely. So the best place to find me is on Facebook. That's where I hang out, guys. So if you just friend me and personally send me a message. Otherwise, I am running a masterclass on the program. So the 5 steps of becoming a 10K coach. I'll send that to Anne-Marie, and she can flip that out to you guys so that you guys can come join us. We'd love to have you in the group. That's a good fit for you guys.
Yeah. What we'll do is that if you've got a link to that, because obviously the live has gone live now, and so people can get access to that, and give me the URL or whatever, and we can put a link so people can click through on that. But for people who are going to be listening to the audio, so being that this is show 20, what was it, 2020 something, 28. So how many days does this February have? Is it 28 or
yes,
more?
I think it's 20. Yes, I think it's 28.
28. So this won't release to the end of the month.
Yeah. Best way, connect with me on Facebook, Calantha Chan. Friend me, send me a personal message. I love connecting with listeners. Please shoot me a message. I'm Melbourne-based, so we can catch up for coffee.
Yeah, fantastic. And of course, we'll put all of those links on the show notes, and the show notes are at ambitiousentrepreneurnetwork.com/TCE28. Now, if this is the first time you're listening to the show and you love to subscribe, as I mentioned, this is a daily show. So every day we get inspiring people just like Cal was today. So just go to ambitiousentrepreneurnetwork.com/subscribe, and there's details on how to do that. And every day you'll be inspired. It'll push to your smart device, and you'll be able to press play. One of the things that I'm doing, Cal, is just saying a blessing and a word of prayer for each of my guests. Would you be happy for me to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Father, we just want to thank you for the time that we were able to spend in fellowship together, hearing about Cal's testimony and her business journey. Lord, we just want to thank you for the work that you're doing in her life, personally, and of course professionally, that she is helping her clients. Lord, we know that when we're starting out in business, it can be tough. There's so many unanswered questions, so many things we need to get into place. But being able to become part of a connected community, one who understands you and one who knows what we need to put into place is such a blessing. So we want to really continue to ask for your blessing on the programs and the work that she does on her business, so that she can continue to not only support her clients, but also to be such a great role model for Jesus, who was kind, who was compassionate, who loved with an unconditional love. May we be that, each and every one of us as Christian entrepreneurs. Can we be that in the world? Father, we just want to again thank you for this time, and for the people who are listening and viewing the podcast recording too. We just want to thank you for them as well. And we ask this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Cal. Again, no end music, but there would be this normal end music. So thanks once again, and look forward to sharing this. You really are a blessing, and thank you for standing up for those coaches who are new in their business and really helping them get their business off the ground as well.
And likewise, keep doing what you're doing, one message at a time. It's a ripple effect. It's I think that's why Jesus had disciples, so that we could all spread the message. So thank you.
Yeah, well, that's one of the other that underpins that, is to make a difference. We can be that difference. Yeah. And just do it day in and day out. And so, again, thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Thanks, guys.